Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Fiber Broadband Association webinar. Today's webinar, Stop Losing Customers You Could Have Saved, How AI Predicts Churn Before It Happens, is presented by Sonar Software. I'm Trish Ehlers, the Vice President of Operations for Fiber Broadband Association. Before we begin, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items to ensure you have the best experience. As attendees, you're in listen-only mode today. However, we want this to be interactive and we want to hear from you. Please use the questions tool in the lower left of the screen to ask questions. We'll have dedicated time for Q&A following the presentation. We also have several additional resources available. These are located in the resources tool in the upper right, so you can find them there during the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand 24 to 48 hours following today's live broadcast. You can find the recording on the FBA website under the Events tab, and the link will also be provided in a post-webinar email. Finally, at the end of the webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a very brief survey. Please do take a minute to respond. Your feedback is very much appreciated, and it allows us to provide content that is relevant and valuable to the fiber broadband community. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Drew Beveridge with QC and Justin Graham, Senior Client Relations Manager at Sonar Software. Before we do that, we'd like to conduct a quick poll. If you could take a moment, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to reducing churn? A, we don't always know why customers leave. B, we identify risk too late to take action. C, we don't have time to review every call. D, coaching agents consistently is difficult. And E, we're not tracking churn at all. So we're going to go to our we'll see. Right now, we've got 50% saying we don't have time to review every call. And we've got 50% saying we're not tracking churn at all. So with that, I will turn it over to Justin.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. If you've ever felt like you're flying blind when it comes to customer retention, you're not alone. Churn is one of the toughest problems broadband providers face, and by the time it shows up, it's often too late to turn things around. Today, we're going to show you a better way. This session is all about how AI can surface early churn signals from the customers your team are already having every day, and how you act on those insights in near real time without adding more tools or complexity. We'll walk through how this works inside the Sonar ecosystem, why it was built specifically for ISPs, and what kind of results providers are already seeing. With that, I'm excited to introduce my co-host, Drew Beveridge, who's going to kick things off with a look at the problem we're solving and where it all started. Drew, take it away.
All right, thanks, Justin. I'm glad to be back with you. The last session we were talking about data, and I think that ties in 100% with what we're talking about today, right? Understanding the data side of it to then get to churn and retention and being able to understand where that moves from. So appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to Fiber Broadband Association for having us on today, and thanks Sonar for putting this on.
Yeah, of course.
Going back to what you said in the introduction, right? We're talking about the how do we predict churn before it happens, and what are we trying to solve, right? Before we get into how do we do it, like what is the issue? We are all busy. Everybody in this industry. We don't have time to sit here and listen to, from my standpoint, I think we take about 4,000 calls in a call center a month. And how do you narrow down where you need to be looking, right? And so if you hire quality control managers, or if you hire retention specialists and they're reviewing phone calls, but they're just taking sample sizes, right? They're not going to be, understanding where to look. They're just taking a big giant swimming pool and looking for a needle in the haystack, or, looking for that needle in the haystack. So with AI, you can literally have it identify every single call and set up flags and standard operating procedures, and it will narrow down the focus. And so for example, with that 4,000 calls, I looked, we were able to look at less than 9% had an issue that we needed to adjust from. So that quality control team, instead of just unable to, going from not knowing what to look for to knowing exactly what to look for and being able to reduce churn based on that, right? And so it goes to an observability section at that point. You're looking throughout your entire customer experience, and that's what our end goal is, right? We're trying to give the customer the best experience possible from a real world actionable case. You know, if you're able to see something that's, you know, you're going to hear me. It's like a punchline, but you can't fix what you can't see. And so if you're able to get a visual and get actionable data all together at one time, you're going to be able to solve problems before you know, the customer goes and gets a pitchfork or gets on their keyboard to the nearest HOA, right? And so the whole goal behind QC and then the Sonar Retain is to retain customers. It definitely costs more to go out and acquire a new customer than it is to keep your customers happy. So excited to talk about what all goes into that. But from the operations side of things, you're taking an operations approach to improve experience with data-driven decisions. And so I love it. It's one of the best things that's come about with the AI world for me, being able to get real-world experience and save our team. Definitely, it's one of the first things that they load up is to see how our customers are responding, what the experience they're having, how we're going about taking care of those customers. And then on the back end of all of the cool things that it's able to do on the retention side, you're able to then see how your agents are performing. And then they are able to see how they're performing. So they have a grade, a performance review, and a benchmark now. So they have their own little assistant that pops up and says, hey, you missed this on the call, or hey, you're off on this sales tool. You didn't mention the promo, or all of these things can happen based on that observability. And so it reduces your training. It makes sure that you're consistent across your network. So if you have multiple locations and you're not in the same room as someone, you know, remote workers, for instance, you're able to make sure they're maintaining the same experience across the board in an easy performance center dashboard that ties together with your CRM. And so we'll get into that. I think the goal for today, you know, I'd love to answer any questions at the end, anything that you guys have, and we'll talk about some of the cool things that could be potential with this too, kind of some teasers, but let's get into it.
Sounds great.
I think I'm in control here, right? So let me see what I got.
I think you are.
All right. I think I was supposed to change the slide to start with, wasn't I? Here we go.
It's all good. I think there's 2 introductory slides.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. I get excited about this. All right. So, you know, the ISP churn problem. The industry reality is the average ISPs churn from 18 to 25%. Each lost customer represents $300 to $2,000 in lifetime value. You know, how long is that customer with you? And acquiring new customers can cost 5 to 25 times more than retaining existing ones. So if you're able to see the problem before it happens and reduce that churn, you're going to have a healthier network. You're going to have better referral. And what does that mean exactly? What's your, you know, are you calculating the lifetime value? What is your current churn now? And what would it look like if you were able to reduce that 3 to 4% in an annualized churn reduction, right? So what is your monthly churn at? And if you think about, if you're reviewing, you know, if you have a 1.5% churn per month, that's, you know, and let's just do a simple, that 10,000 customers, you're looking at, you know, you're looking at 100 customers at 1%. If you were able to reduce that churn, how much money are you saving? What triggers a churn risk is another question that you would want to know. Is if you're able to see previous tickets, if you're able to see their call analytics and their sentiment value, what is that? What does that look like, right? And we'll dig into that. Ooh, I hit the wrong button. Let's try that again. All right. So where does churn signals hide? The siloed data problem. And I think this is one of those scenarios that get missed, and it's just human nature, right? We have our call center, we have our sales, support, billing, you have your network teams. Not everything gets connected in a operational side of things. We're just kind of siloed out there, right? And so the call recordings contain that hidden sentiment and competitor mentions. So you can set an AI to listen to any flag that you want. So maybe you want to know how many times a competitor is mentioned. Maybe you want to know if it's price sensitivities, and so you can configure it to look or hear anything that you want it to. And so with all of the data that it's collecting, the data insights that you're receiving are endless. You can ask at the end of the day, how many times was a competitor mentioned this month? Why was it price related? And have those insights available. Tying the all of this together with agent notes, previous installation tickets, call logs, and having all of those resources available to compile without having to take manpower to dig into each thing and take those silos down. You have it right there in front of you in one easy to access dashboard. I think the average ISP misses 78% of the churn signals. You're not able to look at 4,000 calls in a month. Before we implemented QC, we were looking at 3 to 4% of our calls. We would literally review the calls. We would bring that agent in. We would do a training session, and nobody liked that. Nobody liked to hear from your boss saying, "Hey, this is what you missed on this call. How do we do this better?" I've heard other scenarios. People did secret shopping. They would call in, see how their agents did. But having a centralized dashboard that tracks each category of how that agent does, if it's from support, billing, retention, and having flags that they can train off of, it makes it so easy for that for you to onboard new agents, for you to see where that churn is coming from. It could be little nuggets of information that we wouldn't see and be able to catch together. I think we have several examples of this too, where we had someone call in and wanted to talk to our cancellation or wanted to cancel their services, and we were able to see that on the call recording, and then they got transferred, and that call dropped before it got to the next human, and nobody said anything. There was no ticket created because it was just a simple transfer. But with that flag being able to happen, that call, we had an upset customer. We saw it live. We saw that they were angry, wanted to cancel, but they weren't saying they wanted to cancel, but they weren't canceling at that moment. With us being able to reach back out to that customer and save it from that point. Some other examples we saw were customers that were frustrated, but didn't get a resolution on the original call, and we didn't set a follow-up to. So they were able to flag that in real time and have a retention specialist call back to see what the problems were. So over and over again, we've seen where we're able to save something just from the nature of human error. From a call center perspective, they're expecting to take so many calls a day. They're on the phone for 10 to 11 minutes on average, and sometimes they're missing these queues that are going to be costly for any ISP. So, a tool for operations built by operators is really where this is coming down from. Seeing the problem in real time and being able to solve it, instead of being reactive to a problem that happens at the end of the month. You're looking at it and you're like, man, we could have saved this one, but we're too far, it's too far gone. How do you do it in live where you're more proactive than reactive, right? And so this is where this perfect partnership began, right? We have an AI tool that can analyze calls. It has churn risk detection and prediction and actionable customer insights. But without the data from the CRM, all your previous tickets, all your management, billing and support, and having that centralized data, with this combination, you're not only able to see the real-time call analytics and that churn risk detection, but then it can tie it to a previous ticket. It knows the installation signal. It knows what rate the customer has. It knows if you're doing an upsell or a downsell. So if you're wanting to check sales and see if they're truly upselling your product, it knows what add-ons that you have. And that way, if you're needing to make sure that they have a managed router and they're on a call, you can actually have it flagged to say, hey, no upsell was provided on this call. It knows if they're on auto pay. So if you want to have it set to confirm that your team is mentioning auto pay discounts on every call. We had an issue where I think we take about 800 or 900 billing calls a month. And so one of the things we wanted to see was, hey, are we mentioning that you can pay your bill online? You can pay your bill through text message. You can pay your bill, auto pay gets a discount. And so we set up flags. And with that being a training tool, every time that they didn't mention one of those things in a call, it popped up and told them, hey, you missed the auto pay discount. And so we were able to reduce phone calls to just take payments. And you're hiring people based on their skill set. And so you're taking someone that's skilled in support or skilled in sales, and then you reduce them to taking your credit card over the phone, right? And so being able to direct that attention. And same thing on sales, right? If you think about sales and AI, if you want to make sure you're mentioning the referral program that you have at every call, that's an easy opportunity for your team to push promotions and upsells and things like that, but you're not able to listen to every call to see how sales is performing. You can also think about it in a way of, if you have a fantastic sales agent, what are they doing? What are they doing that you could model to show other agents? And so having that real-time data and call analytics, you can run reports based on that agent, and then it can pull all calls that they had successful sales, successful flags, proactive or reactive saves. You can do anything you want as long as the data is in the background to capture it. And so with that combination, the results are going to continue to be better and better, right? We're able to tie all that information together and on a live report, build you a churn risk results that you can start saving customers immediately. So let's look at the real-time analytics, right? So you end a call, it identifies something in that call that has gone wrong, and then it pops up, and you have the immediate ability to solve it right there. I mentioned earlier when we were talking with Justin, the number one thing that happens when something goes wrong on a call, it's you've upset a customer. It's the feeling that they have, right? It's all experiences based on emotion, right? And so they're wanting to be your customer based on how you're making them feel. How do you provide the service to them? Well, we went off track, and we're able to capture that, and then we can have a retention specialist. That flag goes right to them, and then they can reach out to that customer. And wouldn't you be much happier with your ISP if they called you back and said, hey, it looks like we've gone off the rails with that last call. How can we make this better for you, right? And so if someone says they're thinking about canceling and nothing happened during that call, it would be awesome if I got a call back and says, hey, what can we do better for you? Maybe that's a $10 loyalty discount, or maybe that's just a conversation. But finding a replacement customer instead of saving the customer you already had just because of maybe a misunderstanding or something as simple as a few dollars, you can see that in real time. With 100% of the calls being analyzed, no additional effort for the agent, you're freeing up agents to be able to be proactive instead of sitting there training and going through old recordings. And I think this was one of the biggest things that I was just fascinated by. I think in this world, in this day and age, the AI agents, I think we would prefer being corrected by a machine over someone coming into your office and saying, hey, you didn't handle this call very well. We've seen the self-correction tool improve not only policies, procedures, processes, but everybody actually uses it to say, hey man, did you see that? I just killed it. I just got 100%. So it's I'm a big basketball fan. I talk about this all the time. it'd be like playing an NBA game with no score. You're getting on a call, and you're actually competing to hit all the SOPs that you have set into the system. You're wanting to take care of that customer. You're showing empathy. You're going through the products like you know it. And if you miss something, it lists everything that you did well, and then just gives you, hey, this is what we can improve on. And so it turns every single phone call into an actionable agent first approach. And it could be as simple as like, hey, we're going to do a new sales promo, Q4. You put that into your system, and then every time they get off the call and they miss that sales promo, like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna call them back and get this done. But it keeps everybody on track, and keeps them consistent. I joke all the time, I'm a big coffee drinker, right? And so if I go to the same Starbucks, Starbucks at any location, it should be the same. This is kind of that same thought process, right? You're providing the same experience, but you're being able to measure that at 100%. And then the agents respond better to having self-correction. It's live. You don't have to wait 3 weeks to get someone to call you in the office. The SOP also, I think every one of us would probably feel the pain from the operating standpoint of, a new SOP gets rolled out, and you have to send out the emails. Here's the release for this new SOP. But what's the follow through look like? With a tool like this, you're able to immediately implement that and see the results. Since we've started measuring the agents' performance, we've seen increases all the way across the board. One of our weakest spots when we implemented this was on the retention side, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see how bad we were at it at first. And I know my team's listening, so they'll have fun with this. But we basically, someone called to cancel, we're like, oh, thank you very much. Let's take your equipment and go, instead of using the tools we had, asking them what we could have done better, things like that, so we could gather data. Sometimes it's uncontrollable, it's moves, or they're moving out of the area, not being able to be serviced. But there's other times that just the feedback of, well, it was slow, or hey, we didn't get help on our router, we could solve those issues, right? And so having the ability to coach and see every one of those retention calls and see how bad we were at it, we were able to adjust our SOPs to start actually saving customers from that. And so I think that goes back to the visibility of it. Once you have visibility to what your problem is, you have the knobs and levers to turn to start adjusting. And so really enjoy this approach for it. Our agents have seemed to really take hold of this, and then it has a self-correction tool. So if it feels like you've graded them wrong, they can put their feedback in there and it'll adjust, send it to a manager. So next, talk about measurable ROI, right? We talked about it at the very beginning. Customers that implemented the Sonar Retain and QCI for 30 days, they see those at-risk customers and successfully retain them. You're immediately saving money. Like we talked about at the beginning of this, there's no doubt that you're missing churn responses just because of human nature and human error and miscommunication and emotions and feelings. This takes that out. It flags it. You're able to reach out, and a lot of customers just want to hear that you're there to help them, and being able to flag that, proactively solve the issue, and then keep that customer happy. It'll be a game changer. With those alerts, you'll be able to see the combination between Sonar and QC in real time. It has a full integration with the CRM data for complete customer context. You can make a ticket directly out of the QC Quality Performance Center on anybody that has high risk. It'll jump right into your Sonar account. That way, it's a one pane of glass you can work out of. You can have your quality control retention, but that tie-in is there, and so the analyzed call transcripts with sentiment tracking, it'll build that up for you. The sorry, I got off track there. But yeah, one of the things that as an operator, you don't want a ton of dashboards. You don't want to work on a one pane of glass. QC's made it easy with the integration to be able to tie that back to Sonar and have that where you can pop it in and work your tickets out of there. So, we talked about our next steps here, booking a consultation, a demo, see Sonar Retain QC in action. They have a 30-day customer savings estimate built into it. There's no obligations and a 14-day implementation and custom integrations. I'd like to break for just a second. We'll talk about some of these questions that came in. Justin, if you want to jump on here, and then we'll get back to talking about the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we do that, gentlemen, let's do a quick poll question of our audience. If we could have everyone take a look at the poll question. How much of your customer call volume do you currently analyze for quality or churn signals? And the answers are A, less than 10%, B, 10 to 50%, C, more than 50%, D, 100%, or E, not sure. So let's give it a minute for people to respond to that question. And then after that, we can start with the questions from the audience. All right, let's see what we've got here. Looks like less than 10% is just over 14% of our audience. 10 to 50 is 7%. More than 50%, almost 36%, and 100%, 7, just over 7. But it looks like the big one is not sure. So that's just over 60%. So let's go back to the questions from the audience. Are you both ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Excellent.
I talked fast. I just powered right through that. So, I'm open for all the questions.
All right, bring on the questions. First question, can you integrate with other OSS systems?
We have a partnership with Sonar. The Sonar Retain is is proprietary to their system. QC has an integration for the phone analytics, call center, call data insights, phone analytics, and all of that. And so you can get with the team and talk to them about that. All
right, great. And yes to a question, there will be a recording of this webinar afterward that you can download in about 48 hours is the expectation for that. That'll be on our website. How does this work when you have a third-party call center?
Mike, that's a great question. Mike, how are you doing, buddy? So we actually had one of the how do I word this? One of the concerns we had as an operator is that third-party call center, and so we wanted to be able to see how they were handling our customers, and so it follows your phone path. So if it's ringing in, QC can see that handoff and then analyze your calls on that third-party platform. So in our case, we use Wisp Assist. We're able to see how they're handling it, and it alerts us. One thing I forgot to mention, I'm glad that that triggered that thought, but we do have it where it will tie to Slack or Teams or any other channel, any of the flags that we talked about that you can set up. It will alert you right into your Microsoft Teams or Slack channels of when something goes awry with one of your agents. And so, if something went off on your third-party phone that was offset from the SOPs that you have set, you can get a Teams immediate that alerts you that something's gone wrong.
Great. Next question. Hi, Peter. Good to see you or talk to you. When you say calls, do you mean chat or phone or both, or what is the mix?
Good question, Peter. So right now it's doing calls, but it will be able to do chat, and everything in the end will have an omni-channel platform. But right now it's analyzing calls.
Great. Another question, is 18 to 25% churn an annual number?
Yes, that was an annual number. So you're looking at 1.5 to 2%.
Great. Yeah. We've got a question here. How are broadband providers using AI insights to empower frontline agents, not just managers?
So I think from our agents, what they're seeing is, how to prepare themselves, being able to identify calls that may be confrontational, and so how they handle that, right? And then they're also able to see the competitor insights to know what are in each area. So on the agent side of it, it's a lot of training built into it to see how their cohorts are able to overcome a difficult conversation. We can pull an immediate call of a difficult situation, and then they can listen to that. We've also been able to see how our best sales agents are able to land, and then we can see how we're able to land add-ons. How are they communicating with that customer? And so those insights are pretty invaluable to be able to identify. If you flag, I want to see every call that we were successful in a challenging situation, you have a list right there you can go for training. So
okay, fantastic. Next question: how does analyzing 100% of support calls change the way providers manage retention and agent performance?
In our case, we saw a change immediately from, we had a quality control department to we converted to a retention department. And so we were able to immediately drop our churn across the board by proactively reaching out anytime we saw something that went outside the scope. And so it's more of a customer approach change. Our quality control people shifted over to fixing our standard operating procedures, and then being able to proactively save customers instead of reactive. We were always in the mindset of we have to train our agents to be better so we don't lose people. Now we're like, hey, we're self-training, let's go save the customers. And I think it's a better approach from an operational standpoint.
It does sound like a better approach. Another question: what are the most common signs that a customer is at risk of churning before they ever say it outright? That's an interesting one.
That is a great one, and we've seen some really interesting things. And there always will be a customer that never reaches out to you that churns. But with the data insights, you can see there's signs. They're frustrated on scheduling. They're frustrated that their bill is wrong. The amount of calls that they call into the call center, all of those are being calculated into it. I think shockingly enough, most people's sentiment on the phone is an addition to it. You can see their frustration levels, repetitiveness on the same frustration levels. It captures that, right? And so if it's the same issue multiple times, that churn risk will increase. If they had a service call, it takes that into effect because it's tied in with your ticketing system. So it'll know you went out there, you didn't solve the problem, and they took off work. So all of those things are little breadcrumbs to have a customer that's at risk. And are they savable? Is it something that you can fix? One of the cool functions in Sonar Retain is it'll give you your lifetime value of that customer. So you'll see what you're about to lose. If you're not paying attention to your churn, it's going to give you the monthly value and that lifetime value of that customer that's at risk. And so it kind of highlights if it's a business or if it's a residential customer, or if they're, where are they at in that churn risk scenario or situation.
That's very cool. I think we've gone through our questions. If you do have additional questions when you watch the replay, you can input those. But we've got just a few items from FBA, and then we'll close out the webinar. First of all, I want to thank everyone for attending today. It was a great audience. And thank you to Drew from QC and Justin from Sonar Software. Before we wrap up, just a few quick announcements. Our next Regional Fiber Connect will take place on October 16th, so that's next week, in Scottsdale, Arizona, followed by Kansas City, Missouri on November 11th. So if you're close by to either area, please join us. You can follow the link in the resources tool for more information or registration details. To learn about upcoming webinars from FBA, please scan the QR code right there on your screen, or you can navigate to the events section on the FBA website. You can also find information on the events section on our local events, our regional Fiber Connects. We hope everyone will join us for our Fiber for Breakfast webinar series. That was this morning, featuring FBA President and CEO Gary Bolton. They are live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and past episodes are available on YouTube and SoundCloud. So with that, we'll close out the session. Thank you again to Drew and Justin. Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Drew. It's always a pleasure. And Sonar will be at Whistlepalooza next week. If you have any interest in stopping by booth 524, I won't be there, unfortunately, but some members of my team will be there.
Fantastic.
We'll keep you there in spirit.
I'm never sad to not go to Las Vegas.
And I'm always available if you guys have questions. I'd love to answer it. I find all of this to be fascinating. The future is so exciting in this, being able to reduce some of the operational expenses that have always been a burden, being able to have data, actionable data insights, and so open to talk about it anytime. So
fantastic. All right, everyone, have a great day, and we'll see you on our next webinar. Thanks so much.
Thank you.